Morning, everyone. An happy weekend to you. I hope you can hear me. Hello, class.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Happy weekend. And I want to apologize that we are having a class earlier than scheduled. I just believe that in order for us not to miss today, since you are free at this time, we can have our class and then probably in the afternoon do some other things. Okay, so on that note, I welcome you to today's class. I want to believe you can hear me loud and clear in your various location. Hello, can you confirm that, please? Anyone?
We can hear you, sir. Good morning, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we are going to start from the topic, the nature of law. The nature of law. For those of us that have been following us closely, we have been looking at the various definitions of law. At the same time, we look at the various school of thought that also define law one way or the other. And then we concluded that this morning we will be taking the lecture forward by discussing the nature of law. And when we're talking about nature of law, basically, we are talking about the various characteristics of law. Law as a concept has various characteristics, and it is these characteristics that we want to look at in the course of this class. And of course, that will further provide more understanding of what the concept of law is all about. Now, I would like to say that number one is that law is a collection of rules, remedies, and sanctions. Okay? Law is a collection of rules, remedies, and sanctions. That is the first nature that we need to note, that it is a collection of rules, remedies, and sanctions, which means that it is a collection of the do's and the don'ts, or the collection or the gathering of the norms or the expected way of behavior in the society. Because of course, when you take a piece of legislation, law, that is law, it simply states what you should do or what you should not do. Okay? So that is one nature of law, that it prescribes what you should do and what you should not do. That's number one. The number two nature of law is that law is human-made. That is, law is usually made by the legislature. And like we have mentioned before, that the legislature is the arm of government saddled with the responsibility of law making. Even though in some system, the system has been bastardized to the point that anything just happens. But as far as the ideal structure is concerned, law is made by the legislature, and that is the arm of government saddled with the responsibility to make law. Okay? And it can be made by delegated legislator or a system where the party or the body that has the ability or the power to make law further delegates others to make laws. For example, there's a section of the University of Lagos Act that permits University of Lagos to make statutes. That is, that the Senate of the University of Lagos can make some form of law. Such law are what we call delegated law-making process. But of course, the arm of government that is saddled with lawmaking in Nigeria is the legislature. So, but what led us to that point is that law is man-made. That is, whatever we call laws or norms is the handwork or the collection of the activities of man. Yes, we may say that some laws are natural, or that they come out of nature. Yes, that notwithstanding, one good thing about it is that it is man that has recognized that particular law as a law. Consequently, it still boils down to the fact that law is made by human. So, to this extent, it forms that characteristics of law forms one of the nature of law. And when we're talking about nature of law, another word that we can use to describe it is the characteristics of law. Characteristics of law. So the first one is that it's a collection of rules, that is a collection of do's and don'ts in a particular society. Number two is that law is man-made. Number three is that law is mostly codified. That is, it is written down. Okay, and this is usually done by the legislature, who has the duty to make law. So, law is mostly written, that is, mostly codified. That is the third characteristics of law. The first one is that law exists in the continuum, or it exists continually. One thing we will note about law is that law usually exists for a very long time. It's not that law exists today and then tomorrow that law will now automatically cease to be in extinction. We can say fundamentally that law does not die, but there are cases where a law may be amended. Okay? Where a law may be amended. But the point we are making is that law exists continually, except where that particular law is amended, or by reason of change in structure of government, the law is invalidated. For example, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, especially Chapter 1, okay, talks about the supremacy of the Constitution. And that's why when you open that Chapter 1, you will see the opening that says that the Constitution is supreme. But that usually takes place under a democratic elected government. Most times when the military take over power, in every part of wherever they do that, they usually suspend a portion of the law that makes the Constitution to be supreme. They suspend it. But what we are saying is that law basically exists continually. And to buttress the fact that law exists continually, we will notice that when such regime must have passed, that's part of the Constitution that may have been suspended so that the military coup reign will now come back into full force. So law exists continually. That is another feature or characteristics of law that we need to discuss. Once again, the topic is the nature of law. So number 5, nature of law is that law is normative in character. Law is normative in character. That is, the rule of law consists of norms for the regulation of human conduct in a society. And that's what we mean by the fact that law is normative, in that it prescribes what you should do and what you should not do. There are many of us now that we ordinarily want to do some things, but when we know that if we do that thing, it has the capacity to push us into trouble, we refrain from it. In Lagos, for example, there are specified places where you can drive your cars. There are specified places where you must not drive your car on. When, for example, you are driving somewhere along Ikorodu Road, you know there are places designated as BRT lane. It is the existence of that law that that section of the road is for the BRT that will not make you to go in there. Of course, when you go in there, you know that one way or the other, your brothers who are the law enforcement agent will be hiding somewhere where they will come out to, arrest you when they believe that you have violated the law. So when we say that law is normative in character, we are saying that it regulates human behavior in a society. It regulates human conduct generally. And then we move to the 6th nature of law, which is that law is a reflection of a moral state. Law is a reflection of a moral state or a condition of a particular society. Law is a reflection of a moral, as in M-O-R-A-L, moral society, or condition is a reflection of the condition of the society. That is, law reflects our morality. But law is not necessarily moral. And it cannot be classified as moral, but it shows the kind of norms, belief, or the moral standard of a particular community. Number 1, let's come to Nigeria as a state. I'm not aware of any part of Nigeria where a son will wake up in the morning and walk up to the dad and say, "Dad, how do you do?" And then we walk away. I'm not aware that the Yoruba people do that. Normally, a Yoruba man will teach his children to show respect. And that's why when you see a Yoruba man, you see an Igbo man, you see an Hausa man, the way both of them will greet their elders are not the same. An Igbo person can stand up and greet and just, do a sign of respect and greet the father. Whereas a Yoruba boy is expected to prostrate to greet the father. I'm not sure that in Igbo land, if a son will go and meet the father and be doing like this, the way they used to, do that 3 sign, whatever. I'm not sure it's done like that. But it can happen between elders to elders because it's believed that they are at par. Now, it is not that it is written anywhere that a child or a young person must learn to respect any elder, but it is because it is part of our system, it is part of our culture that respect is there. And that's why I gave an example of a situation where the president of Nigeria at a time was being forced to legalize gayism in this country. I think by the Prime Minister of England then, I can't say specifically now who that individual was. And that they had a mission to ensure that gayism, lesbianism, and all of that takes roots in Africa and in several other countries in the world. As a matter of fact, they went on to say that they have achieved that in some countries where gayism and lesbianism has been recognized. And they were pressuring our then President Goodluck Jonathan that he should allow those who are clamoring for such right to have their right. That is, they should be recognized as people who can marry themselves and so on and so forth. But President Goodluck Jonathan refused to align with that particular suggestion because of the fact that it does not reflect our society. It is not known to our culture that a man should marry a man. It is not known to our culture that a woman should marry a woman. I do not know of any part in this country where such is celebrated. Yes, people may be doing it in secret, but it is not an open thing. Unlike today, that is Saturday now. If you take statistics of the number of weddings taking place in Nigeria today, probably they may not be less than 200, but you are not likely to see a man marrying a man or a woman marrying a woman. That is because that culture is alien to our culture. So that's why we see that law is a reflection of the condition of a society or is a reflection of the moral state of a particular community. So that is one nature of law, meaning that the nature of law in Nigeria or the moral standard of Nigeria will be different from those of South Africa, will be different from the Americans. But irrespective of whatever it is, at every point in time, wherever you find yourself, the law of that nation represent or showcases of what their actual custom is all about. So that is the sixth nature or characteristics of law. Just a minute. Okay, so we continue with the seventh characteristics or nature of law. And that is that law is dynamic in nature. Law is dynamic in nature. Law, in this sense, it means that it can be amended or reformed. It can be reformed, meaning that law is not static. It can be amended to suit the current situation of things. Now, for example, the punishment that is given to kidnappers before are not the same with what is in existence today. Why? Because there was a time when kidnapping was so rampant in our community, and our legislature felt that one of the ways to reduce the incidences of kidnapping in Nigeria is to increase the punishment that someone that is found guilty can face. And then they went to work and generated a another upgrade or what we call amendment in law, and then the law changed to suit the current situation. So law is dynamic in nature, and also it means that law can also be enacted. I mean, new laws can be enacted, and this is in a view to meet the ever-changing needs of the people as changes occur and the society grows daily. Before now, the use of AI was not so rampant. Before now, the use of social media was not so rampant. But when they eventually got into our system, there became need for our laws to be able to meet the requirement or the new developments. Before now, you could there was nothing like Facebook. But when Facebook came, people embraced Facebook to the extent that they now even do business online, or some use the avenue to bully others. And then there was need for laws to be made to curb such things. And then they brought up some form of social media laws that regulate our society. Then the eighth nature of law is that law has element of coercion. Law has element of coercion. That is, law is forceful. Law is forceful. That is, a breach of law can attract sanction or punishment which are enforced through organized means such as the police, court, and prison. And what we are saying in essence by that is that many of us will ordinarily want to do what we like, but we refrain from doing it because of the fact that if we are caught, we can be punished for whatever it is that we are doing. In Lagos, you can be running for a meeting and you're already late, and you see that there is traffic on your lane. No matter how free the BRT lane is, you will refrain from plying it because you will know that it can bring you some form of punishment. So, but basically, it is the force that law carries that makes people to avoid breaking of the law. That's why when you see a police officer, you maintain, even if whatever it is that you are doing before that is not good, you stop it because they have the capacity to ensure that the society grows positively. So that is the 8 characteristics of law or nature of law, which is that law has element of coercion. The 9th one is that law has territorial limitation. Law has territorial limitation, meaning that laws are usually made to regulate the conduct or interpersonal relationship of a particular people. Okay? The people of Nigeria have their own law. South Africans, they have their laws. The people of America, they have their law as well. But the law of America does not affect the citizens of Nigeria who is in Nigeria. That's because Nigeria is an independent state and therefore can provide law to take care of our people. So basically, the law is, it works within a confine, or what we call a jurisdiction. Okay? Now, that is the number 9th one. The 10th characteristics or nature of law is that law is realistic. Okay? That is tailored to serve a need of a people. That when laws are made, is to serve as to bring to fruition the meeting of the needs of the society. The example I gave relating to changing of the punishment for kidnapping to a higher one is to put an end to the incessant kidnapping activities that was prevalent in the society as at that time. Meaning that the purpose for which that law was made is for the security of the people. Also, number 10, features of law is that it structures or it organizes the society or structures the society. Law structures the society. What do we mean? We mean that it is law that establishes the various arms of government. It is law that determines what each arm of government must do. It is law that determines how the various arms of government must work. So consequently, we say that law organizes the society. So far we have mentioned about 10 or 11 nature of law. And I just want anybody in the class or people in the class, let's list these features or nature of law before we move to the class, to the next topic. If you know anyone, you can just indicate and tell us. Anyone? Okay, in the absence of anybody, we move to the next topic, which is the function of law. Functions of law. That is the next topic that we are looking at. Now, one of the things, the first thing we need to note is that law has many functions to perform within the society. Okay, which ranges from maintenance of peace, which comprises also of establishment of a society, protection of life and liberty, and ensuring every other good life within the society. So the role of law in the society are very enormous, but they focus on orderliness, rights, and good life. Okay? The focus is for individual living in society to enjoy order, good environment, and also to live orderly. So, law, number one function of law is that it is a means of resolving disputes peacefully. Law is a means of resolving a dispute peacefully. That is, law can be used to administer justice through the court system. That is the number one function of law that we have to point out. Number two is that it is a code of conduct that focuses on the people in the society. So number one is that it's a means of resolving dispute. Number two is that it's a code, it acts as a code of conduct. Number three is that it specifies the structures, the framework, and order for all aspects of life and society, whether it be structure of government, business, and so forth. For example, in Nigeria, if you want to do, there are some certain kind of business you want to do in Nigeria, you must register with some specific bodies before you can trade. Then when it comes to government, the law also provides for what an individual must do before he can win an election. Or is it a process of recall of those that have been elected? The law provides for the procedure to establish. So that's one of the major functions of law. Number four is that law acts as an instrument of regulating society. Hello, class. Hope you can still hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes, sir. We
All
can
right,
hear
thank
you.
you very much. So, law acts as an instrument for regulating society because law prohibits what is wrong, lawless, and unlawful acts. Law does not permit anybody to do what they like. If law should permit everyone in the society to do what they like, then the society will be so disorganized that everybody will be doing what they like at whatever time without any form of caution by anybody. Meaning that your car can be your car at this moment and somebody else will see you in the next 5 minutes and say, I like your car. Get down and run away for your life. Otherwise, I will kill you. And then he will jump into the car and be using it as he likes. That cannot happen in an ideal society. That's why many evil people that engages in such situation, when they are succeeded in stealing the car, they either went to go and sell it as parts. They sell the part off, but they will never be bold. Majority of them are not bold to drive the car within the society because of the possibility that they may be arrested for the evil that they have done. So basically, law acts as an instrument of regulating the society.
Sir, we can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, thank you very much. So what I said is that law is a means, is grant remedies, justice to those who have been wrong. Many a times we see people who feel that they have not been treated fairly, going to court to enforce their right. And then law is a means of achieving of social equilibrium for the society. Okay, that is another function of law, is of making of or achieving societal equilibrium so that there is level playing ground for the entire society. So that is the functions of law that we can mention for the purpose of this class. Do we have any question? Yes, please ask your question. Kemi, please ask your question.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, for the functions of law, I couldn't get number 3, please, if you could help me recall.
I wouldn't know which is number 3 now, but
Okay, where I stopped was law number 2. Law acts as a code on conduct that focuses on the people in the society. That's number 2, if I'm correct, sir.
yeah, I also said law is a means of resolving dispute. Did you get that?
That's number 3 then, means of resolving disputes.
Peacefully.
Okay, that's number 1. I got that, but I didn't get the number 3 because I wrote number 1 as law is the means of resolving a dispute peacefully. That's number 1. But number 3, I didn't
Number
get
1, I said, is that law acts as a code of conduct.
Okay. Code of conduct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other person?
Okay, maybe I think the second one said law can be used as a means to administer justice. I think you mentioned that too.
There is another one that is specified the structure of frame of work in the society.
Yes. It defines our structure.
Yeah.
And then it also grants remedies and justice to individuals in the society. And then it's like I said, is a means of achieving societal equilibrium. That is fairness, justice, and so on and so forth. Now, let's move to the next topic, which is aspects of law or classification of law. Now, when we're talking about the various aspects of law, one may be called to look at the various manifestations or the types of law or forms in which humans have grouped law many times. And one thing you should note here as we delve into this topic is that man can choose to classify a particular law because of its subject matter. So, but whichever way this goes, there are about 5 different aspects that we're going to look at before we look at the major classification of law. Now, we have common law as okay. Well, let me mention it before I delve into that. There are basically no characteristics for classifying law, because lay down statutes or law prepared and are specified by the court. Then Even different writers have also classified law as their own discretion. So those classifications we are going to look at basically is to help us understand the law better. And also we see that law as may be classified according to the mode of their creation. Law can be classified according to the mode of their creation. Number one is common law. Number two is equity. Number one, common law. Number two, equity. Number three, legislation. Number four, custom. It can also be classified according to the mode, like the law merchant or canon law, and also legal treaties. So these are the various modes that a law can develop. But irrespective of whatever mode, law will still remain law. But these various modes that we are seeing will only help us to have a detailed understanding of what law is. Now, in some cases, laws have also been classified into criminal law, law of contract, law of tort, law of property, law of negotiable instrument, and so on and so forth. But for the purpose of laying the foundation of what we mean by aspect of law, we are going to just discuss about 1, 2, 3, 4 aspects of law, and then that will form a foundation for us to look at the major classification of law here in the class. Now, the first one aspect of law is natural law. The second one is divine law. The third one is eternal law. While the fourth one is human or positive law. Now, I'm sure even if I do not delve into explaining what this aspect means, from the name, one should be able to speak to it. So I want about 4 people in the class to speak briefly on these 4 aspects that we have listed here: the natural law, divine law, eternal law, and positive or human law. Anybody? You can just discuss one, then give room for another person to say what he or she knows about the other. Yes.
Good morning,
Okay.
sir.
Good morning.
Please go ahead.
All right, go ahead, please. You can go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
So I feel like natural law is law that exists naturally. Maybe that that are made by the condition of things that happen in our society naturally.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
Let's say like the example that you made about the kidnapping law.
No, give me your own example. That one does not apply.
Okay.
Give me your own example. You know. Well, tell me.
Let's say in an example of stealing. So it is something that it's a behavioral, natural behavior of some people. It's a crime that people commit naturally in the society. So there has to be laws for it that are made out of the nature of that situation, which is stealing.
No, you are going too philosophical for this class. So that's another aspect. That level you are going is too high for this class. Now, let me give you an example. Maybe it will help you to restructure your answer to this class.
Okay, sir.
There is law of birth. Who made it? Mother and father, Abi?
Yes.
Eh?
Yes,
It's
law of
natural. It's natural.
It's natural.
No, yes, sir.
Who is it not mother and fathers that make babies?
yes, correct.
Okay. So is it natural or not?
It is natural.
It is
But
natural.
it is natural. But can any man actually make baby?
No.
So it is nature
Yes.
that manifests through the meeting of a man and woman. And where we are going is that there is no human being that will not come through the process of birth. So it's a natural thing. What about death? You say whether we like it or not, no matter if we live more than Methuselah, one day we will do what?
Will die.
Yes. That's so. Which other example can you give me now? Is that Aisha Toloyede?
Yes.
Okay. So which other example of natural law do you know?
I'll come back, sir.
Okay. Don't go too far. All right. Any other person?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
So I want to talk about artificial law.
Which one?
Artificial law.
I didn't mention artificial law. I said natural law, divine law, eternal law, human or positive law.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. I want to mention I think eternal law is much more related to natural law in the
Okay.
sense that where I think everyone agrees that something is wrong, that if a thing is done, like
Yeah.
everyone can come to a conclusion that something is actually wrong, like regardless of whatever anyone believes in.
Okay.
Like for example, when let's say somebody is killed,
Yes.
maybe somebody killed somebody else without any justifiable reason like that. Everyone can agree that it's actually wrong to take another person's life as
Okay.
such. Right. So I think eternal law has to do with something that, okay, in another term, maybe divine.
Good.
Right? Yeah, divine.
That word you use is central to it. Yes, go ahead.
All right. So like everyone just knows that okay, no one created life, that no one should actually take life in the
Good.
same sense.
Good. All right. Thank you very much. Veronica. Somebody is not with us in this class. Person is just talking and distracting us. They should stop it.
Sir, I'm back.
Hey, good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, Aisha, give me the example.
Okay, so I'm thinking law of religion.
Okay.
That give us the ability to choose what type of religion we want to belong to. I think it's
Okay. All right. That's okay. Let's have another person talk about another type so that we run through it all.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Please just hold on. There are some people that are not talking to us, so let me remove them so that we can hear those that are talking to us. Just hold on. Okay. Okay, now you can speak. We have a few minutes.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. I want to speak on the divine laws.
Okay, good.
So, like in divine law, is like various religious and like philosophical contents that encompasses belief to be ordained by a higher power, like universal order.
Do you
So
do
this law,
philosophy? Do you do philosophy in this class?
no, we don't, sir.
You guys are highly philosophical in your answer.
So, like, these laws are often seen as reflecting nature of the divine and guiding human conduct and way of behavior.
Okay. All
So
right.
we have in examples of divine law. We can talk about like Ten Commandments.
Yes.
So these are like already set of rules and ethical principles that
Yes.
have already been given by God to Moses, and
Excellent.
people in the olden days are expected to like abide by this law, even though they didn't actually see God
Okay.
providing this laws.
All right.
Then we have
That's very beautiful. Thank you very much. What's the name?
is Veronica Ijoma.
Okay, Choma. Okay, all right. That's also another good contribution. Yes. Let's take
Good morning, sir.
yes. Good
Good morning,
morning.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry, concerning the internal law, can we
Yeah.
also say that it's like a law that is within for like a particular state?
For a particular state.
Yes, like internal. We say is a law that, that governs a particular state or that distinguishes a particular state from another, using state as an example.
No, we cannot say that because this, when you talk about that eternal law, it's
Yes.
not controlled by human. That's why I don't know who was speaking earlier and the person talked about divine.
Yes.
States don't make divine law.
Yes.
It is from the maker of the heaven and earth.
Okay.
So if we want to relate it to state, we can say that divine law apply to states, irrespective of whether they make the law, irrespective of whether they believe in it or not.
Or
Because
not.
things are actually beyond man. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So
Yes,
let me quickly run through the 3-4 just to add to what we have said so far. Like the natural law is the law put in place by God, which governs nature, govern man, govern the environment. And then we can only discover it by virtue of what we see. For example, law of gravity. When you throw something up, definitely it must what? It must come down. It's law of nature, even though engineering or physics has taken it up and expanded it to make it look as if it was a law formulated by somebody. No. Like I talk about law of punishment, then we usually say law of karma. If you do bad, whatever you do, you are going to repeat, whether now or in future or whichever way. So those are aspects of natural law. Like I talk about the cycle of birth or death, youth or old. Some of us that were here now, like 20 years back, we couldn't do many things on our own. But now we are adults. A time will come now that you also will not be able to do some things for yourself when you are old. These are natural things that occurs to every human being. That is for natural law. For divine law is a law put in place by God. It can also be referred to as spiritual law. Okay? Thank God Veronica made mention of the 10 Commandments. That is a very good example of divine law. Moses was not the maker of the law, but he received the law and gave to the people. Then, divine law is also grounded in the inability of man to make a just law or valid law, because man is sinful, but God is perfect. So when you look at the 10 Commandments, for example, it favors no one. It's applicable to everyone. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. It does not favor that, oh, you can kill this person and then this. He cannot say you can steal so person. And that's why stealing under whatever justification is not acceptable. Somebody will say, before I contested to be local government chairman, all these area boys, they were collecting money from me. Now that I won the election, I'm going to steal money to pay back what they are taking from me. Human being will look at it that way. But the law that says you must not steal does not justify whatever reason that may lead to why you want to steal. So that is divine law. It's law. Divine law is a law made by God, or it's also referred to as spiritual law. Then when we're talking about eternal law includes divine or spiritual law. So it has some form of connection with divine law. And it is also put in place by God in the universe. And it will continue to exist as long as the world exists. And that's why the word eternal is deployed in that subheading. So it cannot be removed by humanity. Or like man-made law, that we can wake up tomorrow and feel that this law does not suit our ways of life again. It's not really doing so much. So let's amend it so that it can suit our purpose. Eternal law exists forever. It is everlasting, and it is also universal. Universal in the sense that the same law that same law that may exist here in Nigeria will exist also in the United States of America. And then it is constant everywhere. It's everlasting. And eternal law is said to be the foundation of all laws. And the last one is the human law. I'm surprised that people did not talk about that at all. The man-made law simply is the class of law made by man. When you put it side by side with divine law, which is made by God, human law is made by human, and this can be governmental organs like the legislature, or at the local government level, the councillors. And this particular law is laid down by the authority of the society or the authority of government. And that is also the source of its validity. So, and this aspect of law does not bother about ethical or moral content of the law. What the law wants to achieve is what is its focus. Whether it is moral to put the law or not, human law or positive law does not bother. And then that's why this particular class of law is referred to as legal positivism. Okay? Legal positivism. And the scholars behind this class of law includes but are not limited to the following. Number one, Jeremy Bentham is one of the examples of those who support the idea of man-made law. Another one is John Austin. Is another scholar in this field of law. Another one is Joseph Ras. Joseph Ras as a R-A-Z. And we also have Neil McCormick. Neil McCormick. Neil as in N-E-I-L, McCormick as the M-C-C-O-R-M-I-C. And then the last one, Roland Dworkin. These are scholars in the field of the positive law. So these are the various aspects of law that we have. And then when we meet in our next class, by the grace of God, we are going into the major classification of law. Okay? The major classification of law. And that will include the following. Number one, the common law and civil law. We will look at that. We will look at common law and equity. We will look at public and private law. We will also look at substantive and procedural law. And lastly, we will look at written and unwritten law. So that is what we are going to be looking at in our next class, which is the major classification of law. Okay, so I believe you should be able to read ahead of the class, and then we take it off from there. It's in our next class. Do we have any question before we call it a day here?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So in order for you to be able to meet up with other classes, we call it a day here. Thank you very much for attending. Like I said, the recording of this class is on my YouTube channel, and it's available for you to listen to every, as much as possible, so that at least you can get yourself much more familiar with the content of the lecture. Your class rep can share the link to you, and then you will see the lecture there. So thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.